not a good message. I would argue American Looking has a good message. There's things that can be different, we can alter, we can adjust. But a message, a medium, and a messenger are like the components. So I'm going to use an example. Let's say, I think I've used this, I finally found one that I think works. But I need you guys to tell me. It's what I'm looking at Alice and Nikki, because you guys have heard this like 9 times now. But if I've got an idea for an amazing building that I'm going to create, and I tell you all about this building, and all the amazing things that are going to happen in this space, and like what it's going to do for the community and everything else, right? What is the best way that I can show you or tell you about what that building is going to be like? What are the ways I can show that to you? Yeah.
Well, you could have a picture.
You have a picture. Absolutely. What else? Interactive 3D, like scale the model and like go through there. I love techies. Yes, absolutely. That'd be an amazing way to share that message. Yeah. What's that? An example. Yeah, point to another one and say it's kind of like this, and if you combine those two together, right? All those are good ways. What else? Anything else? My enthusiasm, yeah, so that's part of the message. I'd also argue that's part of the messenger. But yeah, like part of it is actually just how much, what I say, right? Actually conveying that. In terms of the medium, like how I do it, so we got pictures, we got model 3D things, we've got, I could show you examples. What else? Any other ways you guys can think of how to talk about this building? Like what method?
Visually paint a picture.
What's that?
Visually paint a picture.
Yeah, visually paint it. I can build a scale model, right? Often, have you guys seen Zoolander? You guys seen Zoolander? Right? And he looks at the little scale model and he's like, "What is this? A place for ants?" Right? Right? But it's a great, like, if this is what it's going to look like, you know, many bigger size. That is the best way to convey that. What I didn't hear anyone say was that. Yeah, or blueprints even, right? I can actually just give the blueprints. This is exactly how you would build this thing. Yeah.
You can also say what it has and what it doesn't have. More clearly define it.
Sure, I could write that on the. I could do different things. What I didn't hear anybody say is the best way to convey. What's that?
How it can benefit them?
Yeah, I mean that would be part of my message, absolutely, and I would be conveying that. But what I'm hearing you guys say is all visual stuff, right? What I did not hear anyone say is the best way to tell you about my amazing building that I'm extremely excited about that will benefit them in all these ways is to write it in like 3 paragraphs. Right? Imagine that. What if I wrote 3 paragraphs to tell you about this amazing building? And I was like, well, it's like 140 feet high, and it's maybe like 27 feet wide, and it's going to have all these hallways and stuff. How is that as a medium for the conveying of my story versus a 3D rendering that walks you through it, or a scale model, or a picture?
Yeah, boring.
Yeah, it's boring, it's inadequate, it doesn't work, right?
Right.
It just doesn't work.
Doesn't leave an impact on the person.
And it actually it goes opposite of doesn't leave an impact. It actually gets them to go away, right? Like, if I was going to tell you, it like has a negative, if there's like a negative 10 to positive 10, writing 3 paragraphs about my amazing building is probably like -5, right? It would take more work after the fact to get somebody to listen to me again because I conveyed it in the wrong medium. So it's a really important part of your story that you convey in the best way. Sometimes it's video, right? Sometimes it's in a photograph. One photograph can say a lot. Sometimes it is written, sometimes it's a letter. But really thinking through your story that way. Obviously getting the message right, and that's important. But the thing we're going to talk about now for the next little bit until lunch is really what the messenger is about and why that's important. So let's say I walk into an investor meeting about my amazing building. And I am just schlubby, right? I've got like bristled hair, and I'm just kind of like, you know, holding my jeans, and I'm kind of coming up, and I'm wearing sandals, and I go, got this awesome building idea. You should totally give me some money for my awesome building idea, right? How likely am I to get money, right? Do I have any likelihood, right? What's that? What's that, Mark?
Depends on how stupid the people are you're dealing with.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It could be dependent on how stupid they are.
Now, wait a second. If your audience actually speaks that way and doesn't really, you know, require just a whole lot of information, it might work.
So, it might work. Now, let me contrast. I'll say this. Sure, there's a percentage of possibility. I'm not going to rule it out entirely. That approach would be the best way to get my building across. Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure Steve Jobs did that.
Actually,
Jeans and long hair.
Okay. So I will acknowledge
He gets right till he cuts hair and shit. That's a legendary story.
Well,
Yeah, quit talking about LSE in the meetings. Point being is this: if I walk in and I wear a suit and I have my blueprints in my hand and I've got a portfolio and I look like a guy who can run a building and build it, there's a difference, right? And use the vocabulary of the people that I'm working with. There's just a difference in the messenger, right? It's the same exact idea. I can even have the perfect scale model and all that stuff. My medium and my message can be perfect. But if the messenger sucks, right? If I'm not thinking about what that is, yeah.
All of that could be summed up into being prepared. The appearance, the vocabulary, the blueprints, everything that would be needed to make that be successful would all come down to being prepared for going in there and achieving what you wanted to get.
That's exactly right. So basically what I'm asking you to do is not only be prepared, but actually be intentional, is what I would phrase it as, right? So yes, we're going to have a story to tell, and also there are ways to do it that are better than others, that work better than others, or that will gain more success than others. And that is being intentional about what medium it's in, what the messenger, and as you guys said, right? This is all in the context of knowing thy audience. There's two rules, right? Know thyself and know thy audience. There's a bunch of rules today, but point being is, right, if it's, let's use another example. So in Ashland, Oregon, if I'm going to go to a coffee shop and talk about this great idea, and I don't know, I'm enthusiastic about it, who is the best person here to talk to that group of people?
Who's from Ashland? Montana.
Yeah, right? Montana is a way better messenger to go do that than I am from Washington, D.C. Right? Is that fair? Like, it's a really simple contrast, but like, just thinking about who is going to relate to that, to those people whose story is going to resonate most. Questions?
I would add to that the key is a connection. So in that example, the proximity of living in that same area is the connection because they live there. But there's other ways that you can be connected too. You know, mutual ideas or, you know, actually this movement with American Select can be a connection with other folks that have that same passion about wanting to see some change.
Absolutely. Now, let's say I was going to go to Silicon Valley and talk to some engineers. Right? I'm going to talk to yeah, right? There's several people in here, right? We got an open source developer, we got some folks who understand databases, we got people who understand technology. You think they're going to be a messenger that's, you know, going to be able to make that connection that you're kind of talking about? Right? So being really aware of that. And I guess we'll just kind of dive into now is that there's kind of a way to think through this. And again, the most powerful thing you're going to have out there is your own personal story. So, Tony, do you mind if I call on you? Do you mind if I call on you? Is that okay? What? So I can just tell you what I'm calling you for. First. So, Tony, why are you here today?
I read about it.
You read about it. And what about it? Why? So what happened next? Why did you show up today? Where are you from, by the way?
Tucson, Arizona.
So you flew from Tucson to San Francisco and then came to San Ramon after reading about something. Why?
Because I'd like to see an alternative to the present system of selecting the president.
Have you seen it happen differently in the past? Is this different than what you've seen in the past in terms of selecting a president?
Well, we haven't gotten any details about that.
Fair enough. Are there, I'd argue that. But
Go ahead.
point being is this. So you left Tucson just because you want to see a different way. Why do you want to see a different way? What's wrong with the current way?
They haven't been selecting very good candidates, in my opinion.
Yeah. Have you
And
seen?
who are going to select candidates who are beholden to the political party?
Yeah. And have you seen a presidential election in the past? Have you followed politics in the past?
Yes, I follow politics. I've always voted.
Yeah. And you voted in how many elections did you say?
Since 1950 to
So you've got almost 70 years of voting experience, right? And so you've seen a lot of elections. You know kind of the context that this is coming into. Does this seem so far like an interesting, better way?
well, I'll have to wait and see when I find out more about how it's going to work.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything about that yet. A lot of generalities. I'm sorry. I've been waiting for 3 hours. I'll wait till the end of time.
So here's what's interesting, right? You said you'd wait till the end of the conference to get the specifics. So you care enough about this to fly to San Francisco, to listen to even stuff that you don't really care that much about, to ultimately get to some answers, right?
Yeah.
You're looking for answers. That's great. But you've gone way out of your way to get them, right? That's really cool, right? Do you think so? Let's assume for a minute that I can give you the answers that you like. Let's say by the end of the day tomorrow you've got some answers that you like. Will you tell other people about that when you go home?
Well, be happy to, although I'm hesitant to intrude on other people's space. That's a weakness. So I don't like to harangue people.
Yeah, so you don't like to harangue people. If someone asked you what you're doing, would you be willing to stop it?
Oh.
So here's a question. If you guys talk to Tony, let's say again that his questions are answered. First of all, thank you for coming. The fact that you're here, you've flown here, you're waiting, you haven't even heard the specifics you want this morning so far, and you're still here, says a whole lot. Is that that's kind of powerful into itself, right?
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's a really big deal. I'm going, this is an important enough idea that somebody who's seen 70 elections, 70 years of elections in this country, is willing to travel, to go to a place they're not sure what's going to happen, and to listen to other people, and to join with them, and then try to find answers, and then, I mean,
Wow.
right? That's your story. That's Tony's story. You see, what's your name, man? Yeah, awesome. What's your name?
Lisa,
Lisa. Why are you here today?
to learn more about this and the tools of what I can do in the community.
And why would you come to an Americans Elect training? Like, why, if you want some tools for Americans Elect, why is Americans Elect a good idea for you or interesting to you?
Because I'm not happy with the current way things are going, and when I heard about it, it really seemed like it was a really great idea, and I thought if enough people get behind it.
And why don't you like what's happening today? Like, why don't you like what it has been?
It's hurting people, and it's ruining their country.
Like, where are you from?
Oregon.
Oregon. Have you seen good things from the political system in Oregon or in the country?
In Oregon, I think so, but not the country.
Not the country. So you've come here today with Americans Elect. Are you traditionally a party, one or the other?
No.
No? So you're an open-minded person. Do you feel like you've been served by the political system in the country?
No. And I think the parties I've supported in the past haven't done enough backing to get anything accomplished. Even though I like their ideas, I don't think that there hasn't been enough unity among people to actually make a change in the system.
There hasn't been enough unity. Is anybody here a lifelong Republican? Like voted Republican most of their lives? Yeah. Why are you here?
I mean, ultimately, right now we have a group in Washington, both Republican and Democrat, that's really about oversight and obstructionism, and less about responsibility and personal empowerment. And those are the core beliefs that caused me to become a Republican. And when my party doesn't believe that, then I want to find a candidate that can. And the current process and discourse in Washington doesn't support it. So there's 70% of things that we agree on, and we can't get anything done.
So would you say that the current Republican Party represents you?
No, I don't think either one really does.
And is anybody here a lifelong Democrat? Yeah, over there, or over here. Yeah, Don.
Well, I would just, my name is Duff, by the way. How many people in this room have gotten, there's been a Democrat and a Republican administration over the past, 12 years. How many people have gotten a Christmas card from them? Okay? How many people have gotten a phone call from your congressman the day before Christmas saying, "Hi, I just want to wish you a happy Christmas, a Merry Christmas"? Well, there are people in this country that do get that treatment and that privilege, and that's the people at corporate America and the lobbyists and things of that nature. And they're the ones who get represented, and that's why I'm here, is because, I've experienced that and lived that, and, that's the less than 1% that's getting represented by our elected officials.
So a couple things about that, right? So Duff, that's kind of your story. Mostly the same, right? Tell me so you were a lifelong Democrat.
Yes.
How many times have you voted, would you say? Like how many different presidential?
I've voted since the 70s.
Okay, so like quite a few, you've seen quite a bit come and go. Let's just put it out there. And yet you decided to come here today.
Exactly.
Right? You are lifelong this other thing, and now you decided to try something different.
Well, I'm still a lifelong Democrat, but I just think the process of getting those people in place has to change. Because those people are not put in place by us, it's put in place by a select group of individuals. And, you know, I mean, I think we all realize that, but there's a lot of people who don't realize that. And I think that's this is our opportunity to educate the mass, you know, the voting public.
Cool, thank you very much. So what's interesting, who feels like they're in like an independent or a middle, or, yeah? Let's go with, who hasn't spoken? Let's see. Back there. I don't think we've heard anything from you all day. What's your name?
Andy.
Andy. So you are you're not a Republican, you're not a Democrat, and why are you here?
So I'm here because I think the two-party system is basically monopolizing the conversation. And the structure, whether it's with gerrymandering of congressional sites and things like that, but in general, we're not getting moderates and common sense centrists. And because of the party system, the way it's set up, you have extreme right people sort of battling each other. Right now, you can see like who's the most conservative of all. Same thing on the left side, and then at least the vast middle sort of unrepresented.
So does it feel unrepresented to you? Like when you think about politics, do you feel like you have a voice or?
That is why I'm here and wanting to spend time, because I want to. So when I saw Americans Elect, I was like, okay, this is something where I can get involved and actually change or help change the system, which I don't think is working. And I don't think reforming the two parties is going to work. So
it doesn't feel that way to you. Like it doesn't, if you just think about the two parties, it doesn't feel like.
I think they're a total mess.
Okay, cool. What are some other reasons that people are here? Yeah.
Well, I'm just genuinely, I haven't been voted. I voted in one election because I'm 21, but I'm just really fed up. I mean, I reasoned with it for a little bit about how there's always the Republicans and the Democrats, but now I'm just like, I don't even understand how people dealt with it for more than I've dealt with it and been aware. Like, I don't understand it, and I feel that the Republicans and the Democrats are not fixing the problem because they don't want to lose the power that they have, and I think they're just going to keep prolonging the problems, and they're not really doing anything. They're wasting time.
So, did you guys hear Ariel's story? Yeah. From over there, back there? Yeah. So basically, she's saying that she's voted in one other election and doesn't really see any way forward with. Correct me if I'm summarizing you incorrectly here, but doesn't see any way forward and wants to find another way, like she personally. Now, yeah, Corey.
I was going to say, part of the reason I'm here is I've always been told I've always wanted to go into politics. I've always wanted to do something, but I've always refused to take whatever it is. It's crazy. And, okay, you make some sense, you make some sense. I couldn't do it. So, it's this first presenting the opportunity that I could actually get involved with the group that's neutral and actually go into my dream of politics and know to do it. So, know that to go in and not have to claim other parties.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
So I live in a district that's vacant for state legislature, and I'll be running on a full transparency, direct democracy platform, and that's why I joined today.
Awesome. So you actually see this as a prospect through which somebody completely unknown could come into the process, right?
Yeah.
So like you haven't been involved in Republican Party leadership or Democratic Party leadership or Independent Party leadership or Green Party leadership. You're totally new.
Yeah.
Cool. So we have, yeah, Bob.
Oh, I'm Bob from Morgan. I'm here to explore American Elect as a way of providing the people of our country the power to change the political structure.
Does it feel like people have, for you, does it feel like people have power right now?
No, it's been that way for a long time. I served in the military, and that was one of the things that I became very disillusioned with. That I was, because my intention in serving in the military was to was to uphold our Constitution. You have to take an oath. And, to serve our public, our community, and I discovered very quickly in that service that our government didn't really represent the wishes of the people. So I've been looking for this for a long time.
Can people hear that? Bob said he was in the military and didn't really feel like what he's seeing in government is serving the people, and has been looking for this for a long time. Could you argue with Bob's story? Did you tell Bob that he's wrong about the way that he feels? Right? What about Ariel? She says she's voted in one election. And it feels kind of, if you don't forgive me for saying so, it kind of feels a little hopeless, right? Like, what good is this going to do? They tell me I'm supposed to participate in this thing, and like, this doesn't feel like the right way. Is that fair? Is that kind of part of your story? Right? Can I tell her she's wrong? No, that's how she feels. Does anybody else feel like Ariel? Does anybody else feel like Bob? Does anybody else feel like Dan? Right?
It's almost taxation without representation version 2.0.
So Jim, why are you here?
I don't like monopolies. I believe in liberty. And I don't like Microsoft.
Why don't you like monopolies?
Just thought you'd throw that out. And I worked there. It was the best place I ever worked, but I don't like their business practices.
So you worked at Microsoft.
Yeah.
Okay. So you worked at Microsoft, and now you don't like monopolies.
That's right.
How come?
I did it while I was there. I like freedom. Somewhere I acquired a passionate desire and belief in democracy and liberty. I don't know where that came from, but I have that passion. And the political parties are monopolistic.
And so what do you see as, what is the opportunity here through Americans Life?
To establish more democracy, period. To me, that's the goal, not a particular flavor of candidate, but to facilitate democracy.
Right. So think about that for a second. So Jim started off by saying he doesn't like monopolies. If I start off by saying I don't like money in politics, I'm going to be honest, as soon as you said I don't like monopolies, I'm kind of like, okay, right? And as soon as he said, I worked for Microsoft, and now I don't, like, now all of a sudden his story becomes really relevant, right, to the idea that he doesn't like monopolies, right?
Yes.
It wasn't the idea that he doesn't like monopolies that was powerful. It was that he worked in something he thought was a monopoly, and now he's fighting for something he feels like is more just, right? Now he sees a way, perfect or non-perfect, who knows, but he feels like he's seen monopolies in the past in his life. He's worked inside one. And he looks at the Republican and Democratic parties and he goes, that looks like monopoly to me because I used to be inside it. And now I see a different way that is better, and I'm going to fight for that. Right? That was the story, and that's what we all have. When we say, and I see a bunch of hands, so we're going to get there, I promise. But just kind of to dive into this, right? The inclination for several people as you started to talk about why you're here was to say, well, they are like this and they are like that. What I hope you guys start to see is that the power actually comes from your own experience. If I was going to talk to a bunch of business leaders about why Americans elect is a good idea, who are the best? I mean, like, I send Jim, right? Like, that is amazing. Do you think he can organize business leaders in his community?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right? I mean, who wouldn't listen to that?
A lot of people.
A lot of people listen to that, right? Dan says he's a lifelong Republican. Who do you think is a good person to talk to other Republicans about why Americans elect is an interesting idea? Right? I've been doing this my whole life, and now I just don't feel like that's working for me, and I have decided that this is a better way. Join me or don't join me, but this is what I'm going to do. Right? That is amazingly compelling. It is their story, it is Dan's story that says, I have gone from this into this, that now I can see in my own experience. There's an idea called universality in detail, right? So it's not just the big picture of what you're talking about. It's not just the things you think are your opinions. It's actually your own experience that other people relate to, right? Has anybody else been part of something, seen something that they didn't like about it, changed their mind, and then done something else? Probably most of us since we're here today. But like, that could be anything in your life, right? That could be, I didn't like the school I was going to, or I didn't like my job. But that process is something that is represented in Dan's story. Duff's story, right? I've experienced getting favoritism or seeing favoritism through the party process and seeing, the 1% kind of have access to people. And I don't think that's right. And I think anybody should have access to their political leaders, and I'm going to fight for that. Can I argue with Duff about that? No, that's his thing, right? I can say, I don't believe that. And he's like, okay, this is what I believe. You can join me, and if you don't join me, that's okay. But I'm going to offer the opportunity to join me through my story. Ariel, right? 21 years old. Anybody younger than 21 here? Yeah, a couple? How old are you?
16.
16.
No drinks for him.
No drinks for him. That's right. How old are you? 19, right? So this will be your first election to vote in. Okay. So you have somebody who can't even vote yet, and somebody for whom this will be their very first vote. And tell me your story. Why are you here instead of at the Barack Obama campaign rally? Or Republican campaign, for whoever it is.
I think the process is broken. I mean, how can you, with two parties, how can two parties represent 300 million people's worth of opinions?
It's that simple, right? And that, like, you can't argue with them. How can it happen? There can't, right? So think about this. We have somebody who's not even voted yet in a presidential election. What's your name?
My name's Zach.
Zach. And why are you here?
Oh, look, for me, like, I want to be involved in politics, but I've never voted because I'm not in the age of voting yet. But like, right now they throw two people, and they have what they believe, and they have what they believe. But why should we compromise for what we don't believe? They don't represent us. A select few choose who runs for the Democrats and Republicans. So that's why I believe in this. They represent the people, what we believe, and our beliefs should be in the government. I mean, that's the whole reason why we had the American Revolution, because a select few people told us what to do, and that's why we have this.
Right? I mean, this is someone who has not actually voted in a presidential election before, but already sees the problems that they haven't even participated in yet. Is that a valuable story to share? Like, I will tell other people your story now. Because it's not only your story is powerful to you and like you're going forward, but it's actually powerful to us now, right? So let's just sum this up a little bit. We got a 16-year-old who's never voted in an election before. You have somebody who's seen 70 years worth of elections, right? We've got people who have been lifelong Republicans. We got people who are lifelong Democrats. We have people who have never felt represented by the political system in our country, and they're all in the same room.
We're all in the same country.
We're in the same country. Like, this is not supposed to happen, folks. This is everything that's not supposed to be possible because of the idea that we are so polarized, right? No, the story of us right now, we've got several individuals. The stories of who we are in this room, our story, the story of us, is that we have everything from one end to the other and everything in between, and we are going to change how this works. Do you think the country needs what we have to offer right now? What's going on right now? Right, you guys have all talked about it, but like context of, you got 20 years or 50 years or whatever of increasing partisanship, paralyzation, you got money in politics, you got, I mean, what else? What else is going on right now? Yeah?
I think Louis Black put it best in that we basically at the point where we're at two bowls of shit, and all we get to do is sniff each one and decide which one smells worse.
Yeah, right, sure. Great, good story. That is a great story of now, right? So enter into this problem of right now, in this country, we have this thing going on. Some people call it two bowls of shit. Whatever it is, right, there's a problem. We all kind of recognize it, even people who have never voted before. It is so glaringly obvious that a 16-year-old can look at it and go, what? Where can I inject my desire to be involved in politics? that looks crappy, that looks crappy. What else is there? Right? That's where we come in. So think about that story. And think about some of the other questions that have come up today, right? Which is, how do we respond to somebody who says, I think, Tony, you even said, Tanvir. You even said, what if somebody tells me that all you're trying to do is separate the vote to win for Barack Obama, or separate the vote to win for Republican candidate, right? I hear both, which is a great thing. I hear both all the time. Now, you could argue and say, no, that's not what they're trying to do. But what if you said, the reason I'm involved in this is because I look at both of those options and I say, that doesn't work for me. And I'm working to make a better way, which I think is part of our responsibility as Americans, and that's just my belief, right? How easy can I respond? I mean, can I tell you you're wrong? No. No, right? Your story is the best answer to that challenge. And now you've got another story, right? And look, I'll be honest. I don't really think that the other two parties are the best way to go, but also I can tell you that I just met 55 people. I was in California this weekend. I met 55 people, and none of them are in this because they want to see Barack Obama lose, or Barack Obama win, or Republican candidate win or lose. They're there because they don't see a better way, and I can tell their story, right? You guys are the power. Your stories are the power here that actually move all of these other things forward. Does that make sense? So it's kind of simple when you actually just break it down that way, right? So I want to hear another story. Tell me a story why you're here today. Why is Americans' Left compelling? Somebody got their hand up a little while ago. Someone back here. Why are you here today? Yeah.
Oh, I've already said. Well, I mean, I just think it's a way that could completely upend what's going on right now. And I saw on Facebook up there this week.
Go into this. So where are you from?
Corvallis.
From Corvallis, Oregon, right? Corvallis, Oregon. And what do you do for a living?
I'm a student.
You're a student. Yeah. And so you think this could upend the system. Why would it need upending?
Because it sucks.
Why does it suck for you? Because some people like it. Why does it suck for you?
Well, because in my opinion, nothing of substance gets done. And it's nearly impossible to do like things that were once normal in the past, like Senate confirmations. Those are just, the president's day of respect to the Senate will just, for the most part, confirm because it's the president's opinion and he was selected by the people. Nowadays, it's almost impossible, unless you have a 60-plus majority in the Senate, to even confirm someone, because the minority can say they don't. They're in the opposite ideology.
How old are you?
21.
21. Why do you care about Senate confirmations?
Because, I don't know, it's just something I think is so glaring wrong with the current process.
Okay, so do you see the transition between those two things? So I want to hop on this in a second. But see what happened there, and think about it for yourselves, right? Just think about what you just did in listening to that. So he started with kind of starting to go talk about Senate confirmations, and it kind of was less like, it's harder to listen to that opinion. But as soon as he said, this is such a glaring example to me of what is wrong, we can't even pass anything without 60 votes. Right? Once it became about you again, it became a much more powerful statement. So when you sharing the story, right, your power is not in your opinion. I'm just going to, as much as I love all of you guys, and I care what you think, I honestly don't care that much about your opinions. I love your opinions. I'm glad you have them. I'm glad you're really smart, and I'm glad you have experiences. But what I care about is the experience of how you came to be this way, right? Why you are here now, and what we are experiencing together to move it forward, right? That is the interesting story that is both the message inherent in there, your medium being able to share it, right? And you, the messenger, being the most important thing. Why are you here today, Elizabeth?
Well, I think that this is a great process. I think that there is, like I just said, a bigger problem, and that is, we can elect our own candidate, and then Americans elect will step away, but this person will get put into was already the problem. That's the problem. So then what happens? Americans elect steps away, but then they're backed by either Republicans or Democrats. And so then we all know that, okay, we've elected Barack Obama, but what has he done? A lot of times his hands are tied because of the vote.
I'm sorry. I know we'll use for time, but so far, this is a great time, like when you're sharing your story, to say I, right? Because as soon as you start saying kind of the story of what's going on around us, like the media can tell me that, right? Or a blogger can tell me that, or somebody, but like your power of why you're here right now, why are you, like what have you seen? What are your experience? Why are you here?
Well, I'm here because it needs to change.
Why?
And I'm hopeful that this process can, make a difference in the situation that we have right now.
Why is this situation frustrating to you?
I watched the Republican debates, and I'm like, who has chosen these people? We haven't. Who's picked them?
Yes, right? So did everybody hear that? Yeah. So Elizabeth is saying that her experience of watching the Republican debate and looking at the TV and going, who has picked these people? Has anybody related to that? Can anybody relate to that? Right? That's your power, right there, right? Your power is not in talking about, like, the issue is that there's a situation and it's wrong, and that I see this as a way. Anybody can relate in the country right now to going, I've been watching this Republican, there's been 28 debates, right? So almost certainly anyone you're going to talk to is going to know about watching a Republican debate. And that moment of going, who the heck picked these guys? Boy, and women, right? These people are here because of what exactly? Money. Whatever the reason, either way, I don't see how this represents me. Again, it's all about you in the story, right? Like, how does this, like, clearly you didn't think it's representing you, or else you would just pick one of them and say, I'm going to support that guy, or that one, right? If that was the case, that's where she would be, but she's not. She's here, right? That is the part of the story that really matters. So be thinking about what that is for you. I saw another hand back here. You had their hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was going to even relate that to, you could say like Republican candidates, and then you can say who has picked Obama this year? No one. People picked him 4 years ago, but you think that would be a good idea to maybe redo that again and see if there's maybe better choices for the Democratic side, but that's not going to happen.
So who thinks that?
I do.
You think that, right?
Yeah, I think I would like to see more choices even on both sides. The Democrats.
Correct. And you started by saying it would be great if you had this, right? But again, I believe like this is a time to say like what I really want to see, quite honestly, is like another option even on all sides. I don't like any of this stuff when I look at it. And what I found is this other way. And I'd love for you to join me in creating a new opportunity, right? And I think even Duff said, right, he's still a lifelong Democrat. That's fine. You can even tell somebody that. Like, I actually still think I'm going to vote. I think it's lunch, right? Yeah, just so you guys know, lunch is about 10 minutes. But that, again, this is a time to say, like, my personal perspective is this because I have seen this and it's not working for me. That is your personal self-story. And then as soon as somebody challenges you and says, well, that's just your opinion, man. Right? Somebody got the reference. Yeah, that's a Big Lebowski thing. Right? As soon as somebody says, you can be like, yeah, it is mine. And I'll tell you, I've been in a room with 55 other people who represent everything from lifelong Democrats to lifelong Republicans to people who have never voted in an election and people who have been in 70 years with elections. And quite honestly, it's their perspective too. And we are going to figure this out and make a new way. And we'd love for you to join us. If you don't want to, that's fine. Right? But like that, it's unassailable. Does that make sense to folks? Like when I say unassailable? When it comes to organizing, when it comes time to catalyzing the conversation, and giving people the experience, it's all in the stories. Cool. I saw a hand. I think you had your hand up.
Oh, I was just kind of saying about how it's insane how, like, I mean, I've never been like a Democrat or a Republican, but even Republicans and Democrats are like, these people don't, none of the candidates represent me. Like, I mean, I've heard that from so many people. Like, I'm a Republican, but all the candidates there up on the podium I don't identify with them at all, and I just think that's insane. Like, and I think that's unacceptable.
Yeah, right. I mean, and if somebody is a lifelong Republican with you, like you can just say, like, look, I've been a Republican just like you.
Yeah.
And I look at this and go, why did 150,000 Iowans get to choose who I was going to get to? That doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Montana.
I was just going to say, too, that, well, it's just what I encountered when I was working to get a ticket on the ballot in Oregon, too, is that, and maybe this is something we'll go into more later, is like, actually, I don't, even though I vote Democrat, like, I've never really liked the Democrat or Republican, ever. It's never worked for me. I even didn't vote in a couple of elections because it was hopeless. And when I was out there, I got so much antagonism from people, and I actually feel compassion for that because, you know what, I really understand why they feel hopeless. And I mean, I'm not going to offer an option. But also, I think it's two things. I think it's important to get the message out there that, because, I don't think that we're trying to get rid of the parties. I mean, maybe everybody can or cannot agree that actually the two-party system, there's a lot of merit in the two-party system. It's just not working for us the way it is right now. And I just want to say that that it's always been about the person, actually. It's not about the party. And people have this idea about, this is what I found, is that, oh, well, but I don't want a Republican to get in, or I don't want this to get in, or I don't want, and I'm like, it's not about that. This is about something else. This is not about the party. It's about picking a person, not a party. And
can I pause you there, Montana?
Huh?
Can I pause you there for a second?
Yeah.
So how much of Montana's story have you guys heard so far? Like Montana's personal experience about why she's doing this in the last 30 seconds. Can anybody tell me anything particularly about her life, about why she's here based on what she just said?
Because she's been really upset.
She's been really upset, yeah, like generally. So what I'd offer is that in describing this, like you're actually entwined in that is that you've got some personal experiences, right? In the frame, you've been talking about other people, like so far. And
I guess maybe what I'm saying is a little bit out of context because I was just thinking that it's important to get the communication across to people. That because what I found when I was out there doing this, and I don't know why this brought this up for me. So maybe it's not completely totally relevant in this context, but that there seems to be this war going on. It's like this with the people and the public thinking, there's like this party war, and I feel like there needs to be it's like a different, because what Americans Elect is doing is a change in paradigm. It's a complete different paradigm.
so I'll ask you this.
Yeah.
Can I articulate what it sounds like to me? I think your story is what I'm hearing from you. No. I think you're offering a bunch.
I feel like this message needs to be communicated to the people.
100% agree. And I hear you offering that, and I think it's great. Okay. So here's what I think would be an awesome way to structure that, just as like because a lot of people, we all think this way, right? I do often. And so when sharing with other people, there's this, you said a couple fascinating and wonderful things, right? Which are, it just feels to me like there's this war going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? And I've seen where people can come together. I've been in the room where people can come together across every possible ideology. And I know that that's kind of a healing that we can learn. Right? And one of the reasons that I've joined Americans Elect is because I see that as a process where people can actually come together.
Actually, I totally believe that. I really believe that it doesn't have to be like that at all, that we're all really in this together.
And I believe that you believe that strongly. And when you share it from your own story, right, it gives it that punch where I now go, yeah, I feel that too. Right?
So you're suggesting that just to make it as personal as possible.
Yes.
What I said probably, like how I could say it better by...
So I guess I'm offering to you guys, again, it's not that what you think and what you're seeing doesn't matter. I'm saying it will be way more powerful when you say it completely through the lens of what you've been feeling and seeing. Right? So as soon as you said, it feels to me, for, I think you said you've seen lots of, you've seen quite a few things, and it never felt quite right. I've always had this deep sense that what I was experiencing was not quite right. And then when I saw this new way, it's like a light went on. Does anybody else relate to that? right? Yeah, so again, it's all about your personal experience that people can relate to, that is your deepest strength in terms of communicating and getting other people involved. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm often not sure that I'm articulating things well, but yeah, David, or John, sorry.
Could you just make a distinction between our own opinions and then our own personal experience?
Sure. So if I say, well, let's use Jim. Jim, I hope you don't mind. But if I say monopolies are bad for the economy, right? That is totally an opinion of mine. I've never worked in a big corporation. I've never worked in the SEC to, corporate trust busting or whatever. I've never worked in a union. I have no real experience that to me says monopolies are bad, except it kind of, in theory, looks like a bad thing. As soon as I transition from my opinion of monopolies are bad to the reason monopolies feel wrong to me is because I remember when I worked at Microsoft, it seemed like we weren't allowing any other good ideas into the fray. And it seems to me today like the Republican and Democratic parties are doing the same thing that I used to see at Microsoft. And I just feel like that's wrong, and it's not allowing for the best new ideas to come forward and solve problems, right? And Jim can say that. Like that's his personal story. And I could say, in the last training as an example, I've heard lots of people say it, right, is there's too much money in politics, right? And it's, almost no one disagrees, but also like it's not, it's like people, almost no one you're going to say that out loud to anyway, we're going to disagree to your face that there's too much money in politics. It's generally a thing. But somebody goes in the middle of saying the reason that I believe that there's just too much money in politics is because I remember going into a congressman's office and actually him asking me, how much are you going to give to my PAC? Why should I listen to you? Like, how much different does that sound versus me saying, I think there's too much money in politics? Right? This man is supposed to represent me. I thought he was supposed to represent me, and I went in there and he said if I don't give him $5,000 for his PAC, he's not going to listen to me? Well, I'm going a different way. I'm going to find another path. I'm going to fight for it. Right? All about you and all about your story. And you just told me that there's too much money in politics, and it doesn't work. You told me you got across the exact same message, right, in that case. But you told it through a lens that I can't argue back with you, and I can't but help but be fascinated by, right, and want to join you and actually go, wow, that is terrible, right? I don't know. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. I got Paul. Down from back. And we have about 5 more minutes or so till lunch. So.
I'm Paul White from Cedar City, Utah. Most of my life I grew up Republican, and then I changed to what they call Natural Law Party. That party went defunct. And so I went searching for another party, and I am now Constitutional Party. I am supporting American Select because I want to look for a candidate, whether they're constitutional or any other party, that closely matches my personal values. You can pick anyone you want, regardless of party, and that's why I'm here.
Anybody listen to that again?
I don't know.
What's that? Right? I mean, like, you've been on a journey. Who can't relate to being on a journey and trying to find somebody that represents your heart and your soul and something that you love? Do you have any doubt that Paul loves America? Right? He's tried different parties. He's traveled to be here today. Anybody else searching, right? Like, wanting to find something? Yeah. And now, the story of our journey together, you can tell that to anyone. Anybody.
I have an experience with money in politics. I introduced a bill called the Oregon Open Source Bill to save $80 to $100 million, and the Business Software Alliance came in, paid off the Speaker of the House, and the bill died.
There you go, right? So now when you say, I think this is a better way because I think money can't be as much part of the system. Here's why, right? That is one of your, that's where your power is.
I actually do a lot of work. I work with state government, so I do a lot of work with senators and directly with them. And you're saying, you keep touching on how the stories are the most important thing, and that is something that they always say. Is the story is the most important thing. We actually have proof of that in a recent vote in Washington to legalizing gay marriage to the next step. We had one woman who said it, the one that finally flipped over to the other side, said it was the stories that she heard, all the faces that she saw, all the horrible stories of abuse that she heard, and putting those stories to faces is really what swayed her to change. So it's those stories that it really is.
Yeah. I mean, think about that, right? It's no longer about gay rights or immigration as a big thing. It's about the person who is experiencing it really live. This is about someone's life, their story, their experience, and we're humanizing that. And now you also have an opportunity to say, let's say, Duff went to a meeting and it was actually like a bunch of his friends, and let's say most of them are Democrats. And he goes, somebody tells Duff, that's just silly. I bet there's no Republicans involved. And you go, actually, if you don't mind, can I put you in touch with my friend Dan? Right? And Dan can go, yeah, I've been a lifelong Republican, and I think it's a good idea too. Right? I mean, it's not just your own story now, it's ours. So one more hand. Yeah, was that you?
No, it's just...
Okay, 3 minutes before we go to lunch. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I guess I got to do it in 3 minutes, right? Actually, I've got a lot of experiences involved in politics that I could share, so I'll just share one that I can tell.
Again, this your personal, why do you get one?
Well, but see, I've actually had a lot of experience, so it's kind of a sum of a lot of them. But I've ran for office. I'm from Las Vegas area.
Can you guys hear?
Can you guys hear me? I'm Brandon Cassett. I forgot to say that. Speak louder. I'm Brandon. Anyways, in Las Vegas, when I was running, there was an event once. It was at the top of one of the major hotels on the Strip, and we were up. The whole floor was rented out. It was a big event, and there was a stage set up, and different candidates got a chance to get up and talk. I got up there and I talked, and I laid out some issues, laid out the problems, what we could do to solve them. I basically had a standing ovation, everybody cheering, and it was probably about 5,000 people there at the time. And after the event, I'm kind of running through it fast, but after the event, I was approached, and they says, well, it looks like you're probably going to win this seat. So that being the case, we want to talk to you about what we're going to have you do. You will do this, you will do this. These are the things we want you to represent. Once you're in this seat, we want you to do this, this, this. I'm like, no, I'm not going to go along with that because we need to represent the people. I'm not here to represent these special interests. And basically, if you can't do as you're told, you're not our guy.
So
that's wrong.
Amazing, right? Yeah. When we say party bosses are in control, that's kind of like almost conspiratorial sounding if I just say it like that, right? It's like there's this man behind the curtain who's going to do whatever. Sorry, what's your name?
Brandon.
Brandon. When I put Brandon up there and I say, here is a guy who literally got the call, who said, here's what you're going to do when we put you in the seat. And if you don't do this, you're not on our team. Does it sound conspiratorial anymore? No. It's real. It's actually happening. And it's his story. It sucks coming from him. It sucks telling people that the party bosses run. So it doesn't work at all. People are like, okay, yeah. Yeah, we all know that. Yeah, sure. Right.
Personal story.
The personal story. Okay, so we get the story of self. And before we go to lunch, there's one part of the story of now that I want to offer. It's been effective in a couple different things. But it kind of goes back to the idea of we the people and kind of the story of us. And it just kind of starts with, at what point, if you kind of just think back, when did America, the country, become a stable country? Like at what point did it become kind of like a place where things were relatively stable in the government? Yeah.
Reconstruction post-Civil War.
Reconstruction post-Civil War, roughly the 1870s and 80s. Yeah, that's what I was. You're going to say the same thing? Yeah.
Like World War II, I would say.
Post-World War II, roughly 1945 to 1948, become a global superpower, yeah.
We've gone through several different changes where we've had stability, and then it's broken, and it's usually, a lot of times it is a war. You have like the Civil War where we were stable, and then it get called pre-Civil War, all fell apart, and then we had World War II where it was starting to kind of fall apart with the Depression, and then we got back going, and so it's every time it's been a war.
Every time, yeah.
I mean, look at 2008. I mean, we had huge instability. We had global market crash. So I'd say the last time we had stability was post-2008. Is now. Until the next time something.
This is the most stable, right? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say when the Constitution was ratified.
So 1789, yeah.
I'd say after the War of 1812, because then it was clear we were no longer going to be a British colony.
So 1815, right? So, New Orleans, yeah, 1815. Yeah, what about?
Oh, I was just waiting, well, no, I don't.
I thought I saw a sign hand back there. So, yeah, David.
I would argue that this is not a sustainable model that we're living right now, and it is not quite stable, because although we believe it's stable, it's not quite stable. It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable, it's not stable right now. So here's an interesting thing, right? That is all a bunch of perspectives and stories. They're all kind of true. When was the actual declaration? When did we actually say we will become a country? 1776. The very soonest date that any of you said, from 1776 forward, was 1789, the ratification of the Constitution. No one in this room anyway, thought that we were a stable country until at least then. Right? You could very easily make the case that it was not actually until 1815, after what would arguably call the Second Revolutionary War, right, or the War of 1812, that was actually a stable nation. You could very easily make the case that, in fact, we had a whole slavery problem we had to deal with after that, and it was not until after the Civil War that we were a stable nation, or until industrialization took hold of the country and we became that, or when it was the League of Nations that actually took us all into a global war, we became part of a global network of nations, and then we weren't stable, and then, in fact, we had to fight another world war in order to become a global superpower and become stable in the kind of country we know today. And then you could argue, post-Soviet Union, some people say 1991 we became a stable, right? It was when the Soviet Union fell, or 1989. But point being is, there's a whole lineage in our country of responding to the moment. Whatever the moment needed to be, whatever it was Americans stepping up and going, no, we could have fallen apart 100 times in the last 240 years. Way more than anything we've said so far. It could have not happened. I mean, the Constitution was even like the third try, right? Between 1776 and 1789. Had to fight another war, another war, another war, another war. We always stepped up and answered the call, right? And right now we're feeling like everything's broken and the system isn't working for us. This is the call. It's our job. It's our responsibility. That's what we do. That's what this country was built to do, and to do it nonviolently. Like you said.
So,
yeah.
I was just going to say that, it's never really worked. It's never really been really stable, truly. And I think that what's happening now is all the things that hadn't worked, it's just all coming to a head now.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, we've done everything we can to make this work. It's not working.
So everything's coming to a head. So that's the political situation. Could we have had a nationwide online vote that was secure 10 years ago? No. Technology did not exist to make it possible.
Ross Perot.
It does now. Right? Yeah. I mean, we had people who could get ballot access, but now we can do it for not having to be a 3 billionaire. Right? We can create ballot access without being a 3 billionaire. Everything is coming together. And that's the story of us and right now. Yeah? Let's go to lunch. Yay! Oh, sorry. Lunch is right out here. Yeah. Lunch.
Thanks, Tyler.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
You were opening up open source technologies. You're trying to pry it open and maintain it?
Oh, well, me and my dad wrote the Oregon open source bill saying that the government, when they are procuring technology, should use open source or develop their own open source tools or give justification why that's not feasible. And all government data should be open in a standard format for the longest data longevity possible.
Oh, okay. And they just squashed it. They wanted proprietary control over it? Or?
Yeah, the Business Software Alliance basically paid off the Republican Speaker of the House and also used a bunch of nonsense. Like the first virus was written on open source. When they're talking about SCO Unix back, more than 20 years ago, which was not open source.
Right, right. So they began, like Red Hat started taking over Linux and declaring it their own almost.
Well, no, that's not. Actually, Red Hat was one of the constituents that was helping us. But
where they were?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So they kind of hijacked the software that Linux was developing, and then they made a lot of money on it.
I'm not